Good morning and welcome to One Hope United's annual community meeting. I'm Kate Shaffer, Vice Chair of OHU's Board of Directors, and I'm so pleased to be here with you all today. I've served on the board since 2013, and I became involved with the organization through my hometown of Marshall, Illinois, and our campus in Centralia. Over the past year, One Hope United has continued to weather the COVID-19 pandemic, experienced growth, and return to in-person fundraising events such as an Evening of Hope and the 31st Annual Golf Outing. With upcoming events such as Rockin' for Hope and Duck Derby in October, there are additional opportunities for us to engage with donors. The philanthropic support we have received shows how committed our funders and donors remain to the mission of One Hope United. We are grateful for the continued generosity and rely on this vital support to carry out our life-changing work. OHU has also elevated our advocacy efforts by meeting with elected representatives in Florida and Illinois and is seeking state funding for program growth in both states. These exciting initiatives will allow us to serve even more children, youth, and families in areas from education to transitional living. One Hope United is also seeking to open an emergency placement shelter to respond to the existing and growing need of youth in care in Illinois needing a safe place to stay while appropriate foster care settings are secured. You will hear more about our growth and challenges and about our hope for the future at One Hope United from our President and CEO, Dr. Charles A. Montorio-Archer, who I will introduce now.
Good morning from Chicago, everyone, and welcome to One Hope United's annual community meeting. Thank you for joining us today. A special thank you to our community partners, funders, and elected officials, along with their staff, for joining us today. Thank you, Kate, for opening our meeting and for serving as Vice Chair of One Hope United's Board of Directors. As we approach our 127th service anniversary next month, and I think about the state of One Hope United, we remain a strong, resilient organization committed to community, service delivery, and the Hope member experience and advocacy. Let me repeat that. As we approach our 127th service anniversary next month, and I think about the state of One Hope United, we remain a strong, resilient organization committed to community, service delivery, the Hope member experience, and advocacy. One Hope United operates in Florida, Illinois, and Missouri, providing services and supports and programs to over 10,000 children, youth, and families every year. Up front, and make no mistake, this is not accomplished without each and every Hope member showing up, digging deep, serving intentionally, collaborating often, and having confidence in leadership. Thank you to every Hope member. Just yesterday, I spoke to a Hope member about community. Our conversation centered on community, on how community is defined, the expectations of community, and more importantly, how One Hope United is showing up in our communities. This is something that I think about pretty often. What I believe we all can agree upon is that there are considerable community needs, which include, but are not limited to, childcare, early education, behavioral and mental health, equity and equality, healthcare access, housing, community violence, criminal justice, and workforce. However, when we discuss the reimagining of the child welfare sector, these needs are not always examined in search of a holistic community approach. Here at One Hope United, we are dedicated to finding quality solutions that align with our mission and understand the connectability of each need as we support families and communities. In Florida, our Hope House program offers an innovative solution to transitional living where Hope House parents, along with youth care workers, a clinical social worker, and a nurse, serve together implementing trauma-informed interventions, behavior management, and character development strategies for youth in a home environment. Since opening our inaugural home in 2020, there has been great acknowledgement that our motto is needed and benefiting youth by providing the necessary structure and support to dually involve youth so that they can build a foundation of success and lead happy and healthy lives. We have seen a decrease in the number of arrests, psychiatric hospitalizations, and runaway incidents, while seeing an increase in relative and kinship relationships and academic performance. And by the end of this calendar year, we are happy to report that we will have developed 6 Hope Houses. Thank you to all our partners in Florida. In Illinois, we are working closely with Grow Development, led by Rod Grozier, to evaluate our various campuses and other properties. Together, we have identified innovative plans that we are pursuing to help the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services and other funders and the community confront evolving needs. One exciting project we are moving ahead with quickly is expanding our Busy Bee Early Learning and Child Care Center in Waukegan, which we have operated for 54 years. Through our partnership with Grow, we are submitting an early childhood construction grant through Governor Pritzker's office. This expansion will allow us to provide early education services to more children and families and provide space for other partnering organizations that will further benefit our families. The past 2 years have highlighted the need for quality care, innovative learning models, and additional center opportunities. Understanding that the pandemic has stifled child development, we must continue to advocate with funders for resources to support our children and our workforce. Another area of development is that we are launching our behavioral health line of services, which we did earlier this year. 2 offices funded by the Illinois Department of Human Services 59590 program are now open and provide support to individuals who call the new National Mental Hotline 988. All you have to do is turn on your favorite news channel, pick up a newspaper, or scan social media to see people and communities dealing with social, emotional, and developmental challenges. For over 15 years, servicing 13 Illinois counties, our comprehensive community-based youth services, screening, assessment, and support services, and mobile crisis response teams have served at-risk youth and families as crisis mental health services. This mission movement program is critical to protecting children, stabilizing families, and sustaining communities. In St. Louis, like in Florida and Illinois, we operate several community-based and supplemental support programs, and we are routinely evaluating our service portfolio to identify expansion opportunities. Our programs and services are staffed by an incredible group of individuals, Hope members, as we refer to our team, who are the heartbeat of One Hope United. From youth care workers to case managers, to teachers, nurses, and line of service leadership, to administrative staff who support those who directly care for service recipients, we've weathered the pandemic and identified innovative ways to provide care. While we are still impacted by COVID-19, our entire organization has come together to continue our mission and see it realized in the lives of those that we serve. One Hope United, like many other organizations, have been impacted by the employment crisis. Our executive cabinet routinely comes together to focus solely on our workforce and implement solutions to retain and recruit talent. Our resilience shines through as we weather this together alongside each of you, and I know with continued intentional efforts, talented individuals committed to our work and service will continue to support our mission. Our commitment to our Hope members does not just include staff support, but also a diverse workforce that serves a diverse group of service recipients, includes a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am pleased to share that we will be partnering with Justice Informed to further advise our DEI efforts. Justice Informed is a social impact consulting firm based in Chicago, and we are excited for them to work with us to assess and create a plan to engage existing and new organizational infrastructure, competencies, and the willpower to direct, support, and sustain a cultural strategy at One Hope United. Our Task Force on Equity is excited to continue this work we started in 2020. Thank you to all the Task Force Hope members who have been serving over the last 3 years. My hope is that through this process with Justice Informed, we will create an open culture that addresses inequities, encourages inclusivity, and embraces diversity. That was one goal of the strategic plan put in place now 3 years ago by the Board of Directors, and I look forward to seeing that this continues to be accomplished. Now that we're in the last year of our strategic planning, we are working closely with the Board of Directors and with Bank of America to initiate the process to draft the next plan. The strategic thinking and planning process is meant to be collaborative and iterative process, and we will be turning to our staff, Board of Directors, funders, and community partners for their valued stakeholder input. One of the reasons we can continue to accomplish the work we do is because we are accredited by the Council on Accreditation. COA provides a structure to manage resources, offer best practices, and strive for continual improvement. Accreditation is a standard that signals to service recipients, board members, funders, Hope members, and other community partners that we are credible and have integrity. We have just begun our reaccreditation process, and we look forward to another successful accreditation. Advocacy for children, youth, and families and workforce is essential to impacting and influencing system change. As we continue to develop our policy advocacy platform, I am pleased to share that I am now the chair of the Florida Coalition for Children's Board of Directors, and I've also been elected vice chair of ICOI, Illinois' Collaboration on Youth Board of Directors. And last, in addition to the other 2 Illinois commissions, earlier this year, I was appointed to the Commission on Reducing the Disproportionate Representation of African American Children in Foster Care. It is an honor to represent One Hope United in these leadership positions, and I am grateful to work alongside advocates who share our vision of ensuring that people are comprehensively served through innovation and collaboration. Speaking of advocacy partnerships, OHU is also deeply connected with Social Current. Social Current was formed with the Alliance of Strong Families and Communities and the Council of Accreditation merger. Their mission is to advocate for and implement equitable solutions to society's toughest challenges through collaboration, innovation, policy, and practice excellence. I am so pleased now to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Blair Kiser, who is a Social Current Senior Director of Government Affairs. Blair is a fierce advocate for the issues we care most about, and I'm excited to have her share with you the many ways One Hope United will partner with Social Current. As Dr. Kiser prepares, I leave you with this quote from Coretta Scott King. "The greatest of a community is most accurately measured by the compassion and the compassionate actions of its members." Thank you all for being here today and for being a part of the One Hope United community. Blair?
You know, we've been doing this for a while, and I would hope that I would have gotten the mute button down by now. But let's try this again. Good morning, good afternoon here on the East Coast. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me. And as Charles said, my name is Blair Kiser. I'm the Senior Director of Government Affairs at Social Current, and I'm so excited to share with you the ways that Social Current and One Hope United are partnering together and will continue to partner together in the coming weeks, months, and years to really bring a new wave and a new a new fierce look to advocacy and advocacy for the important work that you all do in your communities. I've been at Social Current now for 2 to 3 months, and really what I'm trying to do is engage our network and our network of organizations. And I was able to meet with Charles last week at our Social Current board meeting, where Charles sits on the board. And I'm so excited to work with someone who's as fiercely passionate about issues that affect the social sector. And as I build a network, and I've worked in organizations previously in lobbying and government relations, and what I find is that what makes my job easier is finding the helpers, but not only finding the helpers, but finding those organizations and the individuals within them who have the capacity to do big things and have the capacity to talk about the big things they do to affect their community. And so what we're going to be doing over the coming weeks and months is I'm going to be working with the most wonderful team you all have at One Hope United to take the work that you all do in your communities, take what you do across the country, and find a way to package that, to talk about it, and to really highlight the wins that you all have and the tools and the resources that are needed to expand those wins and really bring generational, transformational changes to communities. And it is my hope that we're definitely going to be able to accomplish that through taking grassroots members of One Hope United's board members, their leadership, folks in the community who have been changed by what your organization is doing, and bring them to Washington, D.C., bring them to Springfield in Illinois, bring them to Tallahassee in Florida, and really show these government leaders how the social sector and how our communities are, vastly intertwined and have this ability to really affect change if they're given the tools, but also to highlight the social sector workers, the volunteers, the folks who stay up every night working on these issues, the folks that are, on the ground in our community kitchens, in our community schools, in our community outreach programs, who at some points in time during the pandemic have had to decide whether they were going to, one, choose between eating or putting gas in their car to go do this incredibly vital community service, or the folks who have been overworked mentally, emotionally, physically, and quite frankly, all of the above, who've said, my position, my work is undervalued. I'm at the end of my rope, and I could make just as much money without the stretch working in fast food or working in a less stressful environment, but continue to go to work every day because they see the value that they serve in the community and the value that their organizations play in holding up our communities, both small and large. And it is my great pleasure to have the trust from not only your organization, but organizations across the country who've entrusted myself and Social Current to help be your voice, to work with you, to lift up what you do, to really make sure that this systemic neglect and systemic hopelessness that is cast upon the social sector ceases now, and that we pick up from where we left off, when we build a way forward so that this never happens not only again, but also we make sure that community workers, the social sector, organizations like One Hope United is given the strength, the tools, the resources, and the adulation that they deserve to continue holding up, supporting, and growing communities and strengthening communities. My information will be made available to anyone and everyone who hears my voice. I want to work with you. I want to hear from you. I am just as involved in these communities and come from one of these communities like you serve. And so I have skin in the game just as much as anyone else. And so I want to be your feet on the ground, your voice in Washington, help lift up One Hope United leadership, help lift up One Hope United advocates. Again, thank you all so much for having me, putting trust in this partnership between Social Current and One Hope United. And if anyone needs me, I'm out here. I'm here to listen. And like I end most meetings with my advocates and my grassroots brothers and sisters. And so let's get out there. Let's push forward and let's bust heads and get some wins. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Blair, for being with us today. We're going to take a few minutes and play our mission video, and then I'll come back to you with the next portion of the community meeting.
Hope means that I can do whatever I set my mind to. Hope means that I can create anything. Hope means that I can fly as high as my dreams.
At One Hope United, we believe in putting hope into action so that every child and family can live life without limits. Through early education programs that are accessible to all families, we provide a strong foundation for children's social and cognitive development. With support services for foster families, adoptive families, and families working to reunify, we ensure children of all ages can grow up in a safe, loving home. Our evidence-based therapeutic programs and services provide mental and emotional wellness in families, helping them to lead healthy lives. And our trauma-informed programs provide youth in residential homes with access to resources they need to heal, grow, and prepare for independent adulthood. Help us put hope into action by giving your time or financial resources. One Hope United, for every child and family, life without limits.
I hope everyone enjoyed our video. Again, thank you, Blair, for joining us today. I encourage those attending to begin to enter your questions into the chat. Make sure you are signed into YouTube using your Gmail credentials. As we are waiting for questions, I'd like to welcome the One Hope United Executive Cabinet who are joining me today on screen. Antwan Turpeau, our Chief Operating Officer.
Good morning.
Ms. Nordloh, our Chief Financial Officer. Candra Reid-Marshall, Chief Human Resources and Risk Compliance Officer, and Damon Cates, Chief Advancement Officer. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Good morning.
We'll take some time. Let's see if we have any questions. Okay, our first question is, the Hope House project expansion is interesting. How and why did you develop this model? And will the project only be in Florida? I'll throw that question over to you, Antwan.
Yes, thanks, Charles. Good morning, community participants and partners. Charles, in your remarks, you talked about innovation and collaboration. And, so we have to give credit to one of our funding partners, ChildNet, down in Broward County, Florida. They were the ones that, piloted an innovative program and really want to collaborate with us on helping them replicate a home-based model for a population of young people that experience lots of challenges, particularly placement challenges and in being involved in multiple systems. And so when they released an RFP, we definitely jumped on that and wrote a strong proposal for a trauma-informed approach and what I would describe in a well-supported foster home in a community for 4 male youth in the home and between the ages of 12 and 18. And this home has lots of intensive supports with a house parent model that is showing lots of positive results, particularly around stability and academic achievement. And as far as, will this project be in Florida? And Charles, you and I have talked a lot about the research that shows that kids do so much better in home-based settings versus in institutional care settings or traditional congregate care settings. That's been validated by, child welfare experts at Casey Family Programs. And so, I believe that this is the future of working with deep end involved youth. So this project is not just going to be done in Florida, but I see it being able to be done anywhere else in the country.
Thank you, Antwan. I couldn't agree more that, what we're seeing as far as benefits to youth, I believe that youth throughout the country could benefit from a model of house parents that feel like a home and not an institution. Let me see if there's any more questions here. The next question is, how does One Hope United build relationship with funders? I will throw that one to you, Chris Nordloh, and possibly to Damon Cates if he wants to add anything.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Charles. I think building relationships with funders is key to One Hope United. We are an organization that's reliant on public and philanthropic support to drive the impact that we see is necessary in our communities. As part of that, as we, look for helpers and funders to, for us to enable us to do our work, we're ultimately looking for alignment with the work that the funder wants to see achieved in the community and how that aligns with the impact and the mission of One Hope United. What we can't forget about during that whole process is stewardship and making sure that One Hope United is acting responsibly with the funding and the resources that are provided for from our funders. So it's that dual focus, right, on impact and stewardship that really propels our relationships that we have with our funders.
Thank you, Chris. Would you like to add anything, Damon?
Yeah, just to build on, good morning, everyone, and just to build on what Chris mentioned, I definitely, we are grateful and thankful to have many robust relationships with funders. And I want to acknowledge those that are with us today and to thank you for your support. We very much appreciate it. And to build on what Chris said, I see those relationships work best when we have a clear vision of where we're aiming and where we could use support, and really communicate that well with our funders. And it aligns really well with what the impact that those organizations and those funders are trying to make. And it's that partnership, and with what Chris said, great stewardship, that really, really highlights what a terrific relationship we can have with our funders and the impact that we can have for the children and families that we serve.
Thank you both. Next question is, could you share an update regarding One Hope United's legislative priorities in Illinois, Missouri, and Wisconsin? I'll turn over to you, Damon, first, and then I'll add something towards the end.
Yeah, so similar to what we talked about for the with our funders, but when we think about it, legislative priorities, us having a really sharp and clear vision of what we're hoping and aiming to do, and then lining up with those who can be some of our biggest advocates in legislative bodies, whether they be in the state legislature. As Blair mentioned earlier, there are some federal pieces too, where we feel like we have some really strong advocates that can help us advance the important work that we do. And then in thinking through the other relationships that we can have, we have even local officials that we partner closely with that are really great examples, particularly with Hope Houses and other things, where it's been those kinds of partnerships that allowed us to be successful in moving forward with some of these really, really big and innovative programs that we have in mind.
Thank you. The one thing I could add also is that from a priority perspective, we want to make sure that we're not just reaching out to legislators or other electeds for requests for financial support. We also want them to be present in the community, to visit our programs, to know our families and staff, and really build that community relationship, which is important to the long-term strategy of how we might present issues before the legislator moving forward.
And building on that, Charles, to just be advocates for us too, as we identify areas where we feel like they can help advance legislation that helps the communities that we serve as well.
Exactly. The next question is, how is the organization handling the Great Resignation? And that one is for you, Candra.
but of course it is. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. As an organization, we have been very intentional about investing in the overall success of our HOPE members in areas that they have identified as valuable. And over the past year, we have successfully advocated to our funders as well as making additional OHU investments to increase salaries across the organization. And as an executive team, we are committed to employees' continued career growth and development. And we're currently creating an executive cohort for senior leaders that will eventually cascade throughout the entire organization. Another thing that we've been focusing on is that each of our executive directors have been working with their respective leadership teams to develop additional retention efforts through creation of mentorship opportunities, ongoing job-specific training and support. And lastly, we are incredibly proud that over the past 2 years of the pandemic, we have shifted our focus to employee well-being and self-care, because we really do understand that employees can only show up in a meaningful and impactful way for the families and communities that we serve when they are able to take care of themselves first. So our employees, from a retention standpoint, specific to the Great Resignation, is that we are putting our weight and our resources and our efforts and attention into investing into our HOPE members because we realize just how incredibly important they are.
Thank you, Candra. It definitely aligns with everything that I said inside of in my remarks about appreciating that they have showed up, have been collaborative, and dug in every day. So thank you again to our HOPE members. The next question. What do you see as the connection between the work One Hope United does and social justice initiatives? It's a really interesting question. And earlier when I spoke about community, a lot of this comes out of that discussion around community. Our mission might be child welfare, but any of us who are advocates and been in this work for a long time, we do realize that you cannot serve just one aspect of a family. You have to approach any type of holistic connection, understanding that the criminal justice activities that occur in our community are affecting the families and the staff that we're servicing or are being served as well. When we think about that there are children who are returning from foster care back into, from adoption back into foster care, realize that we have to deal with preventative services that are in communities that must also work with our legislators and community partners to ensure that we're thinking about those things that influence the entire family and not just an individual. So for me, social justice might not be the mission, but it definitely walks alongside, and we must continue to do that work. Next question, please. Kate mentioned an emergency shelter project. How many youth will be served? When will it open? And will you be doing anything innovative inside that program? And that one is for you, Antwan.
Thanks again, Charles. Yeah, we're really excited about opening a temporary emergency shelter. And I think it's important for us to be clear about this is not a placement for children or youth. This is somewhere that we want to be able to have an opportunity for a child to have a comfortable place to stay while the department or case manager is looking for a permanent home for a young person. Chris talked about being good stewards. This is another way we're trying to be a great steward to our child welfare administrators. We understand that they're under a ton of pressure to develop placement resources, and we're trying to step up to the plate and help with that. Upon the completion of our new transitional living program, we'll open up a 14-bed emergency shelter for 12 to 20-year-olds, again, in need of immediate but temporary bed at any time of day or night. We anticipating opening these doors for somewhere between January and March. Hopefully we can make that happen sooner, but we don't believe that's going to be any later than that. The emergency shelter and TOP will be key pieces to the continuum of care that we're trying to build out and coordinate throughout the agency, and then especially with the coordination within our lines of service and across lines of service. I think this is going to help us have a really great impact on moving kids along that continuum and out the system. So we're really excited. I think it may not be the innovative something new, but the opportunity here to move kids that are lingering or stuck in the system is what we're more excited about. And it may not be the innovation, but it's more about the opportunity to move kids on.
Thank you very much, Antwan. Are there any other questions? Oh, great. This is from one of my colleagues, my co-chair at ICOI. Can you speak to the current diversity mix of One Hope United employees? How does the organization actualize equity in the workplace? I'll turn the first part over to you, Candra, about the diversity mix, and then I will talk about the actualization of equity in the workplace.
Good morning again. Yes, we do track. I think the work that Charles spoke about earlier is that we want to make sure that we are very intentional and we're not using anecdotal data and assumption, but that we're really being intentional about where we have folks showing up in the organization and that there is a diverse mix across our employee populations as they represent in the communities that we serve. So I think that we will certainly do more work in actualizing that and tracking that more intentionally once we move forward with the partnership, again, that with Justice Inform, as Charles mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Candra. Vivian, a very good question. Another way that we've been actualizing is after the death of George Floyd, the workforce, our Hope members really wanted to know what we were going to stand for as we think about, again, social justice and our mission. We created the Task Force on Equity and Human Services, which has been doing a lot of internal assessment within the organization. And as Candra mentioned, Justice Informed will be the second leg of that type of work. Beyond internal, we will turn to external inequities once we take care of our own home, which I think is the best way to ensure that the culture of equity is here first before we go out into the community and do things as well. Thank you for your question, Vivian. Are there any other questions? Oh, great question. How can people get involved with One Hope? And that one I'll turn over to you, David.
Another really terrific question, and thanks for asking it. I would say there are sort of three main ways, not exclusive, but three main ways to get involved. First, by continuing to be engaged like today, by attending events and participating in different activities and programs and services that we provide. That's a really terrific way to engage with us and get involved. Secondly, I would encourage those who would like to support us financially. We very much appreciate that. And to volunteer. We have many, many ways for people to engage with us through volunteer opportunities. And then the third piece I would say is around just being strong ambassadors and advocates for One Hope United. When you can share our story with others in the community, when you can talk about the services that we provide and connect more, whether they be funders or community members or anyone to our organization, we benefit from that, and we would appreciate any of those connections that are made. And I would be delighted to follow up with anyone on those. And then just again to reiterate how grateful we are for everyone's involvement in helping us at One Hope United serve the families and children that we do, and we couldn't do it without your involvement, engagement, and support.
Thank you to all those who already have been supporting us. We really do appreciate it. And as Damon said, we would gladly, have conversations with anyone who really wants to support our mission. This one is from Michael. With the continued need for quality early education, is there plans to extend the early learning center line of service to other areas outside of our current service area? And Antwan, you'll take this one.
Yeah, great question, Michael. First off, you are absolutely right. There's a tremendous need for additional quality education services across this country, this state, counties, and cities within Illinois. And we do envision our early learning center, early child development line of service expanding. But that probably will take a couple of years. We have a new executive director, Kate Shaffer. who's really, really passionate about early education, and he has a really great team and some great teachers who work with him to provide quality education. And so, I think once that team starts to gel and we start to look at different ways we can continue to support the professional development of teachers and continue to work on compensation and retention efforts, I think we'll be in a shape in 2-3 years to look at other opportunities within early education.
Thank you, Antwan. At this time, let me just shout out all of our executive directors. As you mentioned, Antwan, Kinney, Melissa, Dennis, Juliana, and Sarah, thank you for the work that you've been leading in the organization. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Tanya Young. Has there been a change in services that children and families need post-pandemic? Has the shift in what we plan to offer in the future? Has there been a shift in what we plan to offer in the future? Again, Antwan, we're back at you.
Yeah, I think that's a question that we can spend a whole lot more time than we have today to talk about. The pandemic, as we know, has really impacted everyone, no matter what race, creed, class, in some shape, form, or fashion in these last 2.5 years. I would say the one thing that I noticed that's consistent is the inherent need for additional mental health services and building out the capacity of behavioral health programs is that there was a spotlight put on that in post-pandemic. And as Charles, as you mentioned, we've developed some new programs. We have a crisis response program that operates 365, 24/7 for anyone that's in need. And so that is the one thing that I think that we're going to have to be committed to, and we are committed to, is building out, more mental health resources. And then, how do we continue to be creative and innovative around providing in-home supports for foster parents? That's something that we're recognizing, and that's something that will also be critical to achieving real permanency or eventually reunification for children and families. And so through the executive leadership of Dennis Delgado and his team, they're really taking a strong look at how we can better serve our bio families as well as our foster families.
Thank you, Antwan, for the response. The other thing to be mindful of is that one thing I've been talking with a lot of my colleagues about is that there's so much that has happened in the pandemic that we don't even know what the needs are post-pandemic, because in some ways, one thing we have seen is the development lack of children who weren't able to engage or be educated in an environment that we will eventually be able to see those effects. But I think to your question, Tanya, we will spend some time thinking about what research might look like on the effects of the pandemic, especially for kids between the ages of 0 and 5. Any other questions? These are great questions. Thank you. I'll give it another minute to see if there's any questions. Hopefully we're able to answer a lot of the things that have been on people's minds. Okay. Thank you all for your questions and comments. As I close, I'd like to thank each of you for attending today and extend a special thank you to our board of directors, executive cabinet, our HOPE members, and partners for your commitment to our mission and to this sector. Together, we will continue to change lives, challenge our sector and government officials to create a better child and family well-being system, turning hope into action. Thank you all again for being here today.